Welcome learners to this channel. इस वीडियो में आई एम गोइंग टू टेक अप क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 ऑफ MEG 1 ब्रिटिश पोइट्री इग्नू असाइनमेंट सबमिशन क्वेश्चन. पिछली वीडियोस में so far I have covered question number 1, 2 and 3 with you all, जिसकी लिंक मैंने डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में और कमेंट सेक्शन में भी दिया हुआ है. So you can go to it, click on those links and can watch my previous videos. So this video is in the continuation of the previous videos of MEG 1 British Poetry Assignment questions. So let's see what is there in question number 4. According to the question, would you agree that Milton reflects on blindness in sonnets 19 and 23? Give a reasoned answer. So इस क्वेश्चन में हमें स्पेसिफिकली सोनेट 19 एंड 23 दैट आर कंपोज्ड बाय जॉन मिल्टन उसके बारे में बताना है. एंड वी ऑल्सो हैव टू कवर द थीम ऑफ ब्लाइंडनेस, दैट हाउ द थीम ऑफ ब्लाइंडनेस इज वेरी डोमिनेंट इन बोथ ऑफ दीज सोनेट्स. सो सबसे पहले जब हम आंसर लिखना शुरू करेंगे तो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है उसकी इंट्रोडक्शन लिखना, विच आई हैव ऑल्सो स्पेसिफाइड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स इन माई प्रीवियस वीडियोज़. तो सबसे पहले वी विल टॉक अबाउट जॉन मिल्टन, उनकी लाइफ, उनके वर्क्स के बारे में हम शुरू करेंगे. दैट हाउ ही वॉज वन ऑफ द प्रोमिनेंट एंड वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट राइटर्स in English literature. Also, he is one of the most influential and remarkable writer of the 17th century, and he is also one of the most learned poets of all the times. He is also a Puritan poet who has contributed immensely in English literature. Writing in the age of Renaissance, John Milton is also one of the greatest and a true Renaissance poet who has highly influenced the other poets and writers after him. He is also famous for his poems and other works like Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, and his other significant works also includes Lycidas and his On the Morning of Christ's Nativity, which is also an ode. So we can mention a lot of prominent works of John Milton in the answer. He also have composed a lot of sonnets, and in this question we have to specifically write about sonnet number 19 and sonnet number 23 and also discuss the theme of blindness, that how the theme of blindness is a common theme in both of his sonnets. So to have a complete set of answer, it becomes important that we also write about sonnet number 19 and 23 and also comment that what the poet, that is John Milton, is trying to convey through sonnet number 19 and 23. So considering the fact that John Milton does reflect on the theme of blindness in both of the sonnets, we have to also talk about John Milton's own blindness in both of the sonnets. So when we read about John Milton's own life or his personal life, we do encounter the fact that by February 1652, Milton had become completely blind and he has lost his full eyesight, most likely due to the result of untreated glaucoma, and perhaps because he has lost his eyesight completely. So that is why he has composed these two sonnets, that is sonnet number 19 and sonnet number 23, which also talks about his own sufferings, that how he went blind and what struggles he had to undertake after he went completely blind. Talking about John Milton's sonnet number 19, that is, when I consider how my life is spent, is actually the sonnet which he has composed when he completely got blind. So, this sonnet is very personal and very autobiographical in nature. When we read Sonnet 19 by John Milton, we can feel and sense the true emotion that is attached to it. That is how one feels when one becomes completely blind in the most twilight years of one's life. In the Sonnet 19, John Milton has also used words like light and dark, death and soul, which also conveys the theme of blindness in sonnet number 19. So these are the metaphors which he has also used in his sonnet 19. Perhaps the most significant or the dominant theme in sonnet 19 is actually Milton's own blindness. He is commenting that when one loses one's eyesight, what kind of suffering and impact one feels is actually catered in sonnet number 19. In sonnet number 19 also, he's expressing his emotions or true emotions, and he's perhaps asking God that even his talent is also not getting used anymore because now he has turned blind and he is also not able to serve God very well. So, the emotional turmoil that Milton is going through in this sonnet is actually very significant. One also sees a sense of loss in the sonnet, that how the loss of the eyesight or his blindness actually cause him anguish and confusion. In John Milton's sonnet number 23, that is, Methought I saw my late espoused saint, Milton, or the speaker of the sonnet, actually suffers a loss. But what kind of a loss? It is actually the loss of his deceased wife. So, if we compare sonnet number 19 with sonnet number 23, in sonnet number 19, he's actually focusing on the loss of his sight, that is his blindness, whereas the theme in sonnet number 23 is actually the loss of his deceased wife. In the sonnet, Milton is actually mourning at the loss of his deceased wife, and the whole sonnet is actually dedicated to her. In the very beginning of sonnet number 23, we see that John Milton actually dreams. And what is he dreaming about? He is actually dreaming about his dearly departed wife, who he sees in a dream or a vision, that he has turned blind. After that, he also dreams of his deceased wife. This sonnet is also autobiographical in nature, where he is imagining or dreaming his second wife, that is Catherine Woodcock, in a dreamlike state. He mentions that, I quote, a moving and beautiful dream vision, unquote. So, through this line, we do witness that he's actually dreaming of his deceased wife. Milton is also focusing on the great loss and pain that he suffered after the loss of his wife. In the sonnet, Milton is actually in a dreamlike state where he's dreaming about Catherine Woodcock, which is the main subject or the main theme. Unlike in the sonnet number 19, where he is talking about his own blindness. So, in this sonnet, in sonnet 23, he's focusing on the interpersonal relationship and the poet loss of his beloved. In the sonnet, the speaker is actually dreaming or imagining the possible return of his wife from death. In the poem, he writes, quote, "Yet once more to have full sight of her in heaven without restraint," unquote. So here he's actually seeing a vision, or he is actually thinking about the possibility of recovering the beloved and the reunion between the speaker and his beloved. But when we see the last lines of the poem, when the entire dreamlike vision of John Milton is actually shattered or broken, when he says, quote, "I walked, she fled, and the day brought back my night," unquote. So this particular line is extremely important and significant when we are talking about sonnet number 23. So with these last lines, we do see that what the poet is actually trying to convey in his sonnet. That is, on one hand, he is actually suffering and he is pained with the loss of his late espoused saint like beloved. And even on the other hand, he gets a reminder, or it is a reminder to him, that he himself has actually turned blind. That means his physical blindness or the loss of his own vision. Therefore, in this sonnet, that is sonnet 23, Milton is mentioning about two losses, that is, loss of his beloved, that is his deceased wife, that is his own loss, and also his loss of sight, that is his blindness, because he again says that the day brought back my night. So, my night, this particular word itself conveys darkness, and darkness, it is his personal darkness of in his life, and also this darkness or this night is also significant of his own personal or his physical blindness, that now Milton has actually and completely turned blind. So for comparison, we will write that in sonnet number 19, he is actually talking about the main theme of his physical blindness, that how his work has got hampered because he has physically turned blind and he cannot work with a full force that he would have worked if he would have his vision back. Whereas in sonnet number 23, he is not only focusing on his own personal blindness, but he is also mentioning the loss that he suffers, that now that his wife has been missing and he is actually suffering the loss of his deceased wife. So this way we can also state a comparison between the two sonnets. And last May, we will have to add a conclusion where we will sum up the entire answer, that yes, Milton does reflect on the theme of blindness in both of the sonnet, that is sonnet number 19 as well as in sonnet number 23. But we will also mention that the theme of blindness has been taken up in a very different or a distinct manner, whereas in 19 he is actually focusing about his blindness and the suffering, loss, agony and anguish that he suffers, because in the very productive years of his life he has actually gone blind. So the personal suffering that he has, he's mentioning that in his sonnet number 19, whereas in sonnet number 23 is mourning at the loss of his deceased wife. And towards the very end of the sonnet, that is the last line of the sonnet, he's actually summing up the theme that he is also suffering the loss of his wife or his deceased wife, plus he also has his own personal sheer loss, that is his own blindness. So perhaps blindness is a major theme in both of the sonnets, but it is a very dominant theme in sonnet number 19 as or in comparison with sonnet number 23. So this is how we will write our conclusion of the answer. So students, this sums up our answer as well as also ends our video. If you liked the video and found it helpful, then do press the like button, share it around, comment in the comment section below, and also do not forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so that you will have further videos coming up your way. I really hope that you all like this video. So stay tuned and stay connected